If you're the one to like old Nintendo games, there's definitely something that has happened that's definitely really interesting. So this all comes after Nintendo shareholder asked the president or CEO Furukawa if DS and 3DS games will come to Nintendo Switch 2. He goes on to answer, I can't answer your question specifically, but we are working to make our valuable back catalog playable on current hardware whenever possible. Now this definitely could mean a lot of different things. Nintendo Switch Online, straight up ports, virtual console, or maybe even DS, 3DS, Wii, Wii U, remasters or remakes. These are all fantastic options when it comes to playing your older games. But what exactly does this mean specifically? Let's get straight into it. Well, first off, it can mean a lot of different things. In Nintendo's mind, what makes a valuable game? Well, I'll tell you right now, for me, it's probably going to be your Pokemon, your Zelda, your Mario, or the game that was really popular for that system. If you've noticed, on the Nintendo GameCube application, some of them are valuable, like I guess the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, but there's a lot of audience that are like, I want the Legend of Zelda Wind Waker HD. So is there a possibility that that's going to be happening in the future? Well, there's always a possibility that Nintendo is planning remasters or remake. After all, if you looked at Star Fox and Ocarina of Time, it's not out of the question that they are looking into remastering or remake older games. Same thing goes with potentially the Legend of Zelda Majora's Mask being more accessible and more playable in the future if Ocarina of Time succeeds, which I definitely think that game is going to succeed. It looks awesome. It probably plays awesome. So we can look in the future of seeing more and more games released. The same idea here could go for Super Mario 64, because after all, if any game is going to be getting a remake or remaster, it's probably going to be that game. That game is super influential, and it is something that you would consider of a masterpiece for its time. But overall, this is definitely all some really exciting and interesting things. Now when I look at this, I can definitely see even more things. The Nintendo Wii would definitely make sense on this device, because if you look at it, Super Mario Galaxy 1 and 2 work perfectly fine on Nintendo Switch 2. The controllers are honestly like a Wiimote, but without the bar, or the center bar. It honestly is fantastic. If you look at it as well, the Nintendo DS would make a lot of sense. At this point, it's pretty much been confirmed that we are going to be getting a second screen. Now, how exactly would the second screen work if you're playing in TV mode? Well, I honestly believe that the second screen will be very similar to a Nintendo Wii U gamepad. If you looked at it, the Wii U gamepad was fantastic for that, because it allowed you to have pretty much a cheap device, but it had the abilities that it had a screen, a little battery that you can have it like wireless, and also sort of like a link connection cable, but wireless. This is potentially what that second screen could be for the Nintendo Switch 2. You can attach your Joy-Cons to it. Maybe they're going to add magnets, maybe they're not going to add magnets, and they're just going to make it so you gotta ratchet in your controllers or something like that. Overall, I think that this would be a fantastic solution for Nintendo DS games, 3DS games, and even Wii U games, because if you want to, you just detach that and there you go. You can play your games on the TV, or you can play your games in handheld mode, and that would work honestly also very well. Something that has also happened that was really interesting, that we should revisit this idea. If you remember, during the original Nintendo Direct for the Nintendo Switch 2 unveiling, you saw none other than Yoshi's Woolly World. Yoshi's Woolly World is really interesting, and to this point, from my recollections, we haven't really seen anything to do with Yoshi's Woolly World. In fact, this could have just been a hint towards Yoshi and the Mysterious Book, but I definitely think that, hey, Yoshi's Woolly World is Nintendo throwing in a sneak peek, because this isn't too far from the idea that Nintendo is throwing in that sneak peek, calling it a day. Overall, these old games would be fantastic, and playing Mario Kart Wii in 2026, 7, 8, whenever these games come out, would be honestly really fantastic. I can't wait to see what's next for these systems. Even playing all the Legend of Zelda games. with the unveiling of the DS on the system, once they figure out the whole second screen thing, like I said, Wii U gamepad second screen would make sense. We could potentially have every single Legend of Zelda game on one device. In fact, we can have every single game of a certain series on one device. It would really be fantastic. Look at it this way. You can see Kirby's Epic Yarn, a game that has pretty much been forgotten about on the Nintendo Wii U. Same thing goes with The Legend of Zelda Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, pretty much forgotten about as well. And same thing goes with the DS Pokemon games. Those are honestly the best of the best when it comes to Pokemon. So don't you think it would be a smart move to re-release these games? Now I'm not saying all of these things are going to be Switch Online. Most likely some of them are going to be like ports that are just going to be on the storefront, like the Pokemon games, like $30, $20, whatever the case may be for those games. And then some of them are going to be Nintendo Switch Online. If you notice, Nintendo's like, these games are valuable, they gotta be upcharged for even more. And also, this doesn't count out the idea for remasters and remakes. Remasters and remakes are a big part of Nintendo now. If you look back for the Nintendo Switch, you can see at least over 100 remasters that have been taking part over the past couple of years, which honestly is great for some of you. It might not be so great for others, but this is definitely great to see like your favorite game releasing. One of my personal favorite games that I would love to see is The Legend of Zelda Link Between Worlds. This is a game that I honestly love so dearly because it's honestly an awesome game. We agree, great to see. We also know the leaks and rumors that we have to see Kirby getting something in 2027. That would honestly make sense in a lot of ways. Triple Deluxe, Planet Robot, potentially something else to do with Kirby. It definitely would make a lot of sense. And also, if you look at it, we could potentially even see more. Now, will these games be on the actual physical cartridge, or is it just going to be an online associated brother to Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack? Well, it's definitely possible. Depending if they're going to do like a double pack, like the long-awaited Twilight Princess, Wind Waker, Kirby, whatever the case may be, it could potentially be on that actual physical cartridge. But if it's going to be like a single release with nothing touch, it's most likely just going to be on the console itself. So I honestly hope that all of these games get the beautiful love they so desperately deserve. Imagine that, even being able to use your amiibo once again. That would be fantastic. Maybe the dual screen could have an amiibo reader, or whatever the case may be. Actually, you technically don't need that because you got your controllers. Overall, this all works out perfectly fine because the Nintendo Switch 2 is more than powerful enough to run emulation devices on these whole thing, because it's pretty much emulation. That's all it takes to run games like this. If you look at what's going on in the world right now, oh boy, it's not a nice time to get new hardware. So what's better than that than to just re-release some emulation on the Nintendo Switch or even Switch 2. Probably not going to be the Nintendo Switch. I feel like we reached the end of that. So the Nintendo Switch 2 moving forward. And you know what? This is completely fine because you don't really want to play a game that's super frame ratey and jittering, and yeah, emulation kind of sucks sometimes. So instead of putting on your pirate hat and sailing the high seas, maybe you consider Nintendo Online Classics, remasters, remakes, or everything associated with that. Anyways, what are your thoughts on this? Do you think that this is going to be happening, and do you think this is nothing at all? Nintendo's never going to re-release their games. Anyways, thank you so much for watching. Hope you have a fantastic day and see you in the next one.